The trial of the three white men accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery continues in Brunswick, Georgia. And folks, this strange trial continues. The homeowner who owned the home where Ahmaud Arbery had entered that was still being constructed said that no property, to his knowledge, had been stolen. Now, these three white men, they concluded that Ahmaud Arbery was robbing houses, but even they admitted that nothing that was actually taken. They had no idea. Not only that, the defense team for these white men are upset, and they actually asked the judge to keep black pastors who have been attending the trial from being able to sit in the courtroom. Here's a photo here of Reverend Dr. William J. Barber, who was actually in the courtroom today. This is a photo here. He posted this on his Twitter feed of him sitting in the courtroom. Listen to these white attorneys try to keep black pastors out of the courtroom.
My understanding while I was cross-examining Investigator Lowry yesterday is that the Right Reverend Al Sharpton managed to find his way into the back of the courtroom. I'm guessing he was somehow there at the invitation of the victim's family in this case. And I have nothing personally against Mr. Sharpton. My concern is that it's one thing for the family to be present. It's another thing to ask for the lawyers to be present. But if we're going to start a precedent starting yesterday, we're going to bring high-profile members of the African-American community into the courtroom to sit with the family during the trial in the presence of the jury. I believe that's intimidating, and it's an attempt to pressure, could be consciously or unconsciously, an attempt to pressure or influence the jury. To my knowledge, Reverend Al Sharpton has no church in Glenn County, never has. Hasn't been here since Elaine Brown ran for mayor, to my knowledge. But we have all kinds of people. We have school board members. We have county commissioners. We have all kinds of pastors in this town, over 100. And the idea that we're going to be serially bringing these people in to sit with the victim's family one after another, obviously there's only so many pastors they can have. And if their pastor's Al Sharpton right now, that's fine, but then that's it. We don't want any more black pastors coming in here, or other Jesse Jackson, whoever was in here earlier this week, sitting with the victim's family, trying to influence a jury in this case. And I'm not saying the state is even aware that Mr. Sharpton was in the courtroom. I certainly wasn't aware of it till last night. But I think the court can understand my concern about bringing people in who really don't have any ties to this case other than political interests. And we want to keep politics out of this case. So I'm asking the court to take appropriate steps to make sure that the gallery, which is already limited in this case, isn't being utilized for a purpose that could be viewed as improper.
From state?
It's a public courtroom, and I have no idea how the Reverend Al Sharpton appeared to be here. So the state had no part in that whatsoever, so the state is unaware of how that occurred or how he came to be seated with the family.
If a bunch of folks came in here dressed like Colonel Sanders with white masks sitting in the back, I mean, that would be
Okay,
wrong.
I don't know. So let me tell you what I had heard at lunchtime today was, what I had heard yesterday before lunch is that there was going to be, that the Reverend Al Sharpton was going to be appearing on the courthouse and appearing with the family. I was asked at lunch whether the court had any objection to Reverend Al Sharpton coming into the courtroom, and I said, as a member of the public, there are certain limitations on what we can do here, what is going on. And what I was told was, instead of having someone from the family sitting in the courtroom, that he was going to be sitting there instead of somebody else from the family. And my comment to that was simply, as long as things are not disruptive and it's not a distraction to the jury or anything else going on in the courtroom, so be it. Well, I will tell you that I noticed him once and that was it. And the fact that nobody else even noticed that he was in here means that everybody complied with this court's rulings on sitting in this courtroom and listening to the evidence. I don't hear a motion, and I will tell you this, I'm not going to blanketly exclude members of the public from this courtroom. If individuals, based on the limitations that we have in the courtroom, end up sitting in the courtroom, and they can do so respectful of the court's process and in compliance with this court's orders with regard to the conduct of the trial, and they're not a distraction, then I'm not going to do anything about it. And I did not hear from anyone that there was any distraction whatsoever.
Mr. Chairman, we see some of the same, or do we see some of the same items in this house or in this construction site in the daytime as the nighttime, as the nighttime?
Yes.
Okay. And to your knowledge, at this point, has anything ever been taken or disturbed?
No, never been taken.
And do you remember if you called the police this day during this daytime clip?
I don't think I did.
Okay. Do you remember the date that this clip was taken?
I may not be correct, but I think it's the day that Mr. Arbery got shot.
As I said, one of those pastors today sitting in the court was Reverend Dr. William J. Barber. He appeared with others on the courthouse steps, calling the murder of Ahmaud Arbery a lynching.
We're scattered out. The Poor People's Campaign, we understand the intersection between the acts of racial violence, like the lynching of Arbery, and the police violence that leads to all these unnecessary deaths. Somebody say unnecessary. Unnecessary. But we got to understand what we have seen here with Ahmaud is not just murder, it's an act of terrorism.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And America, the only way we're going to stop this is America, you're going to have to come to understand that this kind of terrorism and murder is not just dangerous to black people,
yes,
it's dangerous to the entire country.
Yes.
Joining us right now from Brunswick, Georgia, Barbara Arnwine. She is president of the Transformative Justice Coalition. Darrell Jones, he is the chair of the Transformative Justice Coalition. Glad to have both of you. Y'all have been on the ground there from day one, focus on this. It's rather insulting, Barbara, to listen to this white attorney specifically say to the court, deny black pastors from attending. For everybody out there, y'all have been there. This is an open, as the judge said, this is a public courtroom. This is not a closed case, a closed trial. So for this white attorney to specifically ask for black pastors not to be allowed to attend is utterly shameful.
It is disgraceful. And I want you to know, Roland, that this is, I would say, the fifth motion, I believe, that he has made. He's made 4 motions to ban the Transformative Justice Coalition by name, and me and some others from the presence in the courthouse. And let me be very clear, any presence at all on the courthouse grounds. Each time the judge has denied it, he said that's grounds for mistrial, the attorney has. He even in his motion, in one of his motions, wrote that the black press, the black media is how he put it, the black media was intimidating jurors by being, potential jurors by being as part of the press pool. So this man's got problems. He's got serious problems, and I'm not shocked that he said this. I sat right in that courtroom next to Reverend Al Sharpton yesterday. There was nothing, not a stir, not a look, nothing. The jury, if you're in that courtroom, you will see that the jury is intensely watching the witnesses, the judge, and all the evidence. They're reading the transcripts. They're doing all the work that they should be doing as jurors. So I just think that this man is desperate. He knows that they are in trouble. I mean, one of the pieces of evidence that was introduced today was the evidence that the homeowner believed that there was this white couple that was actually doing all the thieving, and that he actually called the police on them twice, and he actually called the police on them a third time when he thought he had found out where they lived. You don't hear anything about anybody going to, quote, investigate these white people, to identify these white people, but he believed they were the thieves who had taken items from his home, and he said Ahmaud never took a thing, not one thing.
Daryl, this is pure racism by this attorney, to be targeting black people. How in the world is somebody black intimidating the jury by sitting in the courtroom listening to the proceedings?
And Roland, thanks for having us on, and that's an excellent question. And one of the things that's been consistent from the defense team has been this, the issue of race, right? They wanted to ban the Transformative Justice Coalition because they said we were going to bring 20,000 people into Glenn County and put them on the courthouse steps and intimidate the jury. They wanted to ban the black pastors. They wanted to ban the black media. Now they even wanted to go as far, and they succeeded in banning black jurors. So there has been a consistency to what they've done, and that is they wanted to ban anything black because, it's not a question of intimidation, because there's been no intimidation that has gone on here. The only thing that's been intimidating is that, their presence in the courtroom is intimidating themselves. We are there, right? When Pastor when William Barber came in, he wasn't in the main courtroom.
Right.
He was in an overflow courtroom.
Right.
So they never even saw him. He was out of the vision of the attorneys as well as the jury. So, it's just a horrible argument. So, but they know that it ain't stopping. They know that we've been out marching. They know we've been out in the community. They know that Reverend Jesse Jackson is on the way. They called him out saying that he was there. They ain't seen anything yet, Roland. Reverend Jackson is coming, and it's not going to stop because this family, the Arbery family, it's not about trying to intimidate a community. It's about trying to support the family. And that's why Reverend Sharpton came. That's why Reverend Barber came. That's why Reverend Jackson is coming. All of them have been invited by the family to come and provide their support. That's what this is about. It's bad lawyering on their side to try to, do what they're doing and banning blacks. Really, is what they want to do, is just ban blacks from the courtroom. And, interesting, Roland, one of the things that Barbara and I always discuss, right, is that this is what they do when the nation is watching.
Yes.
Can we imagine what they've done in the cases when no one has been watching? That's the scary thought.
And I want to point out also, Ro, when you were saying it's racist, be clear that every morning there are pastors out in front of the courthouse praying with the family. And you know why they haven't complained about them? Because most of them are white. And they, so this is very racist and very racially targeted. They're only focusing on the black pastors, when indeed there have been rabbis out there, there have been Methodists, there have been Unitarians, there have been, you name every Christian and non-Christian denomination, and they've been out there praying with the family. So this is really racial targeting, but they might as well just sit themselves down, because we aren't going anywhere, and we're bringing in more, as Daryl said so brilliantly, we're bringing in more black pastors. We're bringing in more pastors from throughout the Glenn County area, because ultimately the lesson here is that this racist, vicious, vigilante killing has to be addressed. They have to be held accountable, but there needs to be a new Glenn County. Because the fact that you got this kind of racial segregation, this kind of inopportunity that exists in Glenn County, that has to be addressed. And there's no racial justice until you address it, and they're scared because they see a new order coming. There's a new political order. He's correct. It is political in the sense that the white people in the county are thinking very differently about their politics, and that's scaring them. They see a change happening in Glenn County.
And, Roland, if I may,
Well,
adding
that's what I find to be most laughable. The fact that he specifically said black pastors. He didn't say pastors.
Yes.
He specifically said black pastors. Darryl, go ahead.
Yep. No, and Roland, one of the interesting things that Barbara was laying out is that Glenn County is changing. And it's changing because, one of the things that we noted in this trial during the beginning stages of questioning were the number of white jurors here in Glenn County that were saying that they thought that the actions of these defendants were despicable,
right,
and just against them, and that they formulated prejudiced opinions about them already. So in terms of the changing dynamics, it's there. You got to remember that Goff is the same one who made this motion about banning the black pastors, is the same one who made a motion that said that his client can't get a fair trial because there are not enough uneducated white males on the jury.
No. He says there's not enough Bubbas
and six-packs
on the jury.
It is, look, I understand the whole point of being able to defend your client, but what we're seeing here is pure racism coming from these lawyers, and thankfully, this judge rejected their pleas. Y'all have been doing some great work there. We live streamed the rally that you had earlier, and we certainly thank for the hard work that y'all are doing there on the ground, standing with that family. Darryl Jones and Barbara Arnwine, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much, Roland.
All right, folks, back to our Roll Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Are the stars out tonight?
Alexa, play our favorite song again.
Okay.
It's time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punching!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Like, wow, Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared. You dig? Last month, Steve Bannon, who was the senior advisor to President Donald Trump, refused to appear before Congress investigating what took place on January 6th. This is what Congressman Benny Thompson, co-chair of the committee, said on October 19, 2021.
Mr. Bannon stands alone in his complete defiance of our subpoena. That's not acceptable. No one in this country, no matter how wealthy or how powerful, is above the law. Our goal is simple. We want Mr. Bannon to answer our questions. We want him to turn over whatever records he possesses that are relevant to the Select Committee's investigation.
Well, guess what? Today, a federal grand jury indicted Steve Bannon on contempt of Congress. He is going to turn himself in on Monday. This is the statement that was released by the Department of Justice. He was charged with 2 counts of contempt of Congress. This, of course, is important because you have had these Republicans who have shown, yes, contempt for Congress. Now, of course, they yelled, kicked, and screamed when Democrats did these things. So Bannon, 67, this is what the press release says, is charged with 1 contempt count for involving his refusal to appear for a deposition and another involving his refusal to produce documents despite a subpoena from the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Quote, since my first day in office, I have promised Justice Department employees that together we would show the American people by word and deed that the department adheres to the rule of law, follows the facts in the law, and pursues equal justice under the law, said Attorney General Merrick Garland. Today's charges reflect the department's steadfast commitment to these principles. Here's the whole deal here, Kelly. Steve Bannon, of course, got a pardon from Donald Trump for being involved in that illegal fundraising scheme. He was able to get his get out of jail free card. This to me, when he turns himself in, this is what should happen. No bail granted. Throw his behind in jail. As Democrats are going to have to show these Republicans that if you want to continue to defy the American people, if you want to defy Congress, then you're going to suffer. Remember, Donald Trump refused to turn over his tax records to Congress and fought this thing all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court simply disagreed with that. And then what happened? He still is filing lawsuits. At some point, and this is what people also elected these Democrats to hold these Republicans accountable. Finally, Merrick Garland has done that, at least with Steve Bannon.
And I'm just waiting for the rest of those who have been subpoenaed to go through the same process if they do not comply. This is the perfect moment, albeit a little late, for the Democrats to show the muscle that they have. We elected them to have this muscle, and they have not been flexing it in the time that they have been in their respective offices. And for the life of me, I can't necessarily understand why. Maybe it's because the Republican Party is so strict and linear that they feel like they have to be the nice party or the open party, what have you. But even big parties such as the Democratic Party needs rules. They need to enforce the rules. That's what they were elected to do. And right now, my pessimism is coming out a little bit, feeling like it's a little too late, but, no time like the present, right? So, just go as hard as you can and make sure that everybody who was responsible for the atrocity that is January 6th is held accountable to the fullest extent of the law, which Congress has the power to do.
Faraji, the arrogance of Republicans yelling rule of law, is clear. And again, for the actions here, you have former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, who has refused. Congress here today, hey, Meadows, you might want to see what we just did to Steve Bannon. You don't want to play that game. And here's the deal. For every single one that refuses, throw their ass in jail.
I mean, it's very simple. And I think that it's even more telling, Brother Roland, what role President Trump had to play in this whole situation of dealing with these subpoenas. I mean, the New York Times came out with a piece saying Trump tells former aides to defy subpoenas from the January 6th panel. I mean, if this is not evidence enough that this man, and I'm speaking of Trump here, that he is doing everything he can to not be connected or to be found guilty in what happened on January the 6th. I don't know what is, but he's telling his people, don't listen to the federal government. Don't listen to Congress. Don't listen to the House of Representatives. Hell, don't listen to the United States Justice Department. Just defy the subpoenas. And so all of this is, and I don't know, and I think this is really the bigger part of this whole conversation, is that here we are in 2021. We've been talking about President Trump running for president again. We've been talking about the fact that you're going to have Republicans possibly back in power in 2022. but you're finding out, not just with the Steve Bannon subpoena, but then over the past couple of days, there were other Trump senior high-level Trump advisors, Kelly Conway and other folks that have been found guilty of doing illegal campaigning while in office. I mean, what else does this group of criminals have to do to show people, like, you know what? We are criminals. We went to the White House. We did what we thought would do in our best interest. And then at the end of the day, no one is going to punish us about it. There aren't going to be any real consequences for our actions. What else has to be done at this point? I don't know. But I'm glad Steve Bannon is getting indicted and getting charged.
Easy.
But he needs the more time than the little 30 days or whatever.
The reason you have to, what you do, Michael, is, again, you indict them, you convict them, and you put them in jail.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I hope Stephen Miller gets arrested. Stephen Miller was just on Fox News talking to Laura Ingraham, said he's going to ignore the subpoena. Now, keep in mind, I thought the Republican Party is supposed to be the party of law and order. This is supposed to be the party of law and order, but now all of a sudden, but you know, they did back the blue. They backed the blue until the coup. This is what they did. Okay, keep in mind, they backed the blue until the coup. So, I personally, Roland, I hope all of them defy the subpoena and all of them get indicted, all of them get arrested. Okay, I really hope so, to send a clear message that this is not going to be tolerated. These are people who helped engineer an insurrection. Okay, the full weight of the Department of Justice needs to come down on their behinds, and they need to film it. This is must-see TV. I'm serious. This is must-see TV. They need to film this and send a clear message. This is what's going to happen to you. Because I remember when Republicans went after Eric Holder, okay, and subpoena Eric Holder, Attorney General. I remember all this, and you know, this is just a bunch of hypocrisy from a lot of Republicans that help engineer this insurrection. But I hope the full weight of the Department of Justice falls on them. Absolutely.
And folks, here's the deal. Look, you gotta understand it. This dude has a hugely popular podcast. Before the announcement of his indictment came out, this is what he said. Go to my iPad. He said, "Suck on this." Steve Bannon tells audience, "We're taking over all the elections." Go to my iPad. This is what he actually said. Okay, this is what he said. Okay, y'all need to understand what's going on here. There's a clearly defined strategy these guys have. This is what he said in here. He said, "We're not complaining about it anymore. Remember, there are no whining and no tears in the war room. We're taking action, and that action is we're taking over school boards. We're taking over the Republican Party through the precinct committee strategy. We're taking over all the elections." These people are thugs, folks. They want to put Trump back in, and how you deal with thugs, you treat them like gangsters, look like just like lawyers and prosecutors use RICO strategy. You put them in jail. That's what you do, and so that's what needs to happen there. Folks, back to our roadblock unfiltered video in just one moment.
Betty is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Bear Hug Betty. Settle in, kids. You'll be there a while. Ooh, where you going?
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches! Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all. I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared. You dig? Daughter of a well-known Florida politician has pled guilty to stealing $300,000 in COVID relief money. Damara Holness, she's the daughter of Broward County Commissioner and Democratic congressional candidate Dale Holness. She was accused of falsifying pay stubs, payroll expenses, and employees. She initially said, I didn't do it, but she did. She pled guilty to one count of conspiring to commit wire fraud. She faces up to 20 years in prison. I don't understand these people. Okay, you're gonna get caught, and you're gonna risk that? You playing with federal money? Yeah, that's stupid. So, nice try. All that freedom. Now you about to go to prison. Back to our Roll Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon. So now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson. Like, really loves.
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punching!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared. You dig?
If y'all are so motherfucking intimidated by the presence of black people, why don't y'all leave us the fuck alone? We wouldn't even be in a trial for these motherfuckers if they had just left Ahmaud Arbery alone. He was minding his black ass business, jogging, committing no crimes, when these white men happened upon him and decided to be slave patrol vigilantes and lynch him. So there's this whole notion of intimidation is bullshit. Look at Trayvon Martin, walking home, minding his business. And somebody decides to be intimidated by him, George Zimmerman, and murders him. You had Botham Jean, who was in his apartment, his own apartment, who gets murdered because the woman is scared. You in his apartment. Breonna Taylor, she's in her bed. She's in her apartment. And this is just the common theme of people claiming to be so damn intimidated by black people while seeking us out for violence. And they're the ones that are intimidating. So I'm sick of hearing about intimidation. It's about the fact that these people believe that black people moving freely is an affront to their white supremacist need to oversee our every move.
Back to our Roll Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Betty is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon. So now she's free to become Bear Hug Betty. Settle in, kids. You'll be there a while. Ooh, where you going?
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punching!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Like, wow, Roland was amazing on that.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared. You dig? Boy, Kyle Rittenhouse.
Let me go first.
On the stand
Let me
today.
go first.
He was just sitting here. Scott, I'm still talking. Damn it, wait. I ain't even done an intro yet to the story.
That's
and
why
your
I wanted
ass
to
ready
get
to
in
talk.
early with you.
So,
I
man,
miss
he
you,
was
bro,
sitting
bro.
here crying.
I'm
Stop
ready
talking,
now.
Scott. Y'all, mute his mic till I get done. Kyle Rittenhouse go on the stand today, y'all. He's sitting here whining and crying. You got the judge. He's sitting here admonishing the prosecutors. He's acting more like a defense attorney than an impartial judge. And so here's a video, again, of Kyle Rittenhouse on the stand. He is the young white man who killed two folks in Kenosha, Wisconsin, AR-15. Of course, he traveled to a neighboring state to so-called secure the city. Watch this.
To go in a northerly direction?
I wasn't.
Describe what happens.
Once I take that step back, I look over my shoulder and Mr. Rosenbaum was now running from my right side. And I was cornered from in front of me with Mr. Zeminski. And there were three people right there.
Take a deep breath, Kyle.
That's what That's where I run.
Time for our break anyway. You can just relax for a minute, sir. We're going to take a break about 10 minutes, and please don't talk about the case during the break. Read, watch, or listen to any account of the trial.
But he kept chasing me. It didn't stop him.
Mr. Rittenhouse, you're telling us that you felt like you were about to die, right?
Yes.
But when you point the gun at someone else, that's going to make them feel like they're about to die, right? That's what you wanted him to feel.
No.
You wanted him to get the message from you that if you come any closer, I'm going to kill you. That's why you pointed the gun at him, right?
I pointed the gun at him to deter him from... I pointed the gun at him so he would stop chasing me. That's why I pointed the gun at him.
Because if you point the gun at him, you were hoping he would stop chasing you because he would get the message from you that if he keeps coming, you're going to kill him. Right?
I didn't want to have to kill Mr. Rosenbaum.
That's not the question I asked.
It seems argumentative, Mr.
Did that even factor into your mind at that point? Did you even care whether you were going to kill him or not?
I didn't want to have to kill anybody. I was being attacked. That's why I shot him. Shot at him.
You shot at him with the intent of hitting him and killing him, correct?
I didn't want to kill anybody.
Then why are you shooting at someone with an AR-15 at close range if you don't want to kill him?
Because he's attacking me.
All right, folks, and so now, if y'all want to see somebody who really, really rehearsed his tears, watch this.
my
Folks, where,
right
okay.
side, and I was cornered from in front of me with Mr. Zeminski, and there were three people right there.
Take a deep breath now.
That's what I. That's what I run.
Time for our break anyway. You can just relax for a minute, sir. We're going to take a break about 10 minutes, and please don't talk about the case during the break. Read, watch, or listen to any account of the trial.
But he kept chasing me. It didn't stop him.
Mr. Rittenhouse, you're telling us that you felt.
It was just, oh, I'm just being hurt. Now, the judge in this case, he just went after the prosecutors. Watch this.
Why would you think that that made it okay for you, without any advance notice, to bring this matter before the jury? You are already, I was astonished when you began your examination by commenting on the defendant's post-arrest silence. That's basic law. It's been basic law in this country for 40 years, 50 years. I have no idea why you would do something like that. And it gives, well, I'll leave it at that. So I don't know what you're up to.
There have been numerous occasions during this trial where they've opened the door. The one time when they're going into Mr. Rosenbaum's prior, the reason he doesn't like guns. And I said something, I whispered in Mr. Krause's ear, it's because of the prior convictions. Please stop. And he did. He knows if you're going to go into something that's been excluded in a pretrial order, you better ask the court, you better get permission. This is ridiculous.
It wasn't excluded, Your Honor.
You know why it was excluded in the first place? Because it was propensity evidence. That is exactly what 90404 is designed to prevent. You're talking about his attitudes. His attitude is he wants to shoot people. Now, I've admitted that kind of evidence in other trials when it's been appropriate. I didn't admit it in this case because, to me, what I've heard in this trial, and by the way, Mr. Richards absolutely correctly points out that just hours ago, I said I had heard nothing in this trial to change any of my rulings. So why?
Testimony, Your Honor.
Pardon me?
That was before the defense
Don't
testimony.
get brazen with me. You knew very well. You know very well that an attorney can't go into these types of areas when the judge has already ruled without asking outside the presence of the jury to do so. So don't give me that. That's number one. Number two, this is propensity evidence. I said at the time that I made my ruling, and I'll repeat again now for you, I see no similarity between talking about wishing you had your AR gun, which you don't have, so that you could fire rounds at these thought to be shoplifters, and the incidents in these cases, which are not, there's nothing in your case that suggests the defendant was lying in wait to shoot at somebody or reflecting upon the shooting for a vast amount of time. Every one of the incidents involves matters that involve seconds in time. So I commented at the time, I don't see the similarity, and I don't see the similarity now. You have an incident where he's making comments about some alleged shoplifters versus crimes that involve instantaneous actions, whether premeditated murder or whether self-defense. That's for the jury to decide. But I don't see the similarity. I said it couldn't come in, and it isn't coming in, no matter what you think. Number two, I have to be concerned that with what Mr. Richards has said about the progress of the trial, and when you were I said you were over the line close to or over the line on commenting on the defendant's pretrial silence, which is a well-known rule. I'm astonished that that would have been an issue. So I don't want to have another issue as long as this case continues. Is that clear?
It is.
Thank you. Ask the jury to come back in, please.
Okay, let's get right to it. Scott, now you can talk.
Okay, this is going to be a little complicated. Let's unpack it for the judge, okay? So he makes a pretrial ruling, this judge, and he says that the fact that they had this prior videotape or recording of the defendant saying, pardon me? Anyway, we're going to unpack it. And so they have this prior recording of the defendant saying, I'd like to take my AR and shoot some people coming out of a store, a completely separate incident. The judge ruled that that couldn't come in because, as he says, it's propensity evidence. That is the propensity for the jury to believe that his desire to shoot an AR-15 on a prior occasion plays in some way to his intent for the night in doing the rioting and what have you. And the judge said that's mutually exclusive. The prosecutor tried to bring it in despite that ruling, saying that his ruling, the judge's ruling, opened the door or did not close the door to that level of inquiry. The reason that's important is because it's highly prejudiced versus the probative value. And if he does that, if he brings that in against the judge's order, or if he questions the defendant about whether he told the police something or not, and he's got a right to remain silent under the Constitution, that's grounds for a mistrial. In fact, the defense attorneys moved for mistrial, and the judge almost granted it. This doesn't have to do, as I see the video, have to do with whether the judge is acting for the defense or in support of the defense. This is kind of fundamental trial work and evidence and rules that defense lawyers and prosecutors cannot violate, because you can get a mistrial on this, and it's a waste of time, money, and resources when you have to start all over again. And so that's the unpacking piece. I think the judge was right here, but he did not grant the mistrial because he wants to get this trial done. But the prosecution has to stay in line. Now, I don't think long-term that's going to have a prejudicial effect on the prosecution. Judges move on, and you get berated by judges all the time if you screw up. But here, I think the judge was right, at least had an argument for why he was highly pissed off, if you will, with the prosecution. And lastly, I don't know what the defendant was doing, because he said he looked like he was having an asthma attack more than crying. I didn't like to laugh at people who were being emotional, but that did seem contrived. So those are my best thoughts, Roland.
Monique, you have this judge who, again, has ticked off a lot of people who, you know, first of all, he made it clear that the prosecutors could not call the two people who were killed victims. Called them rioters and looters. That's fine as well. There are many who believe that this judge has crossed the line numerous times and acting more as if he's in the corner of Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yes, but the people who are saying that are not career criminal defense attorneys.
Exactly.
And I disagree with some of the things that the judge has done, but in that I think that there were closer calls on victim, rioter, looter, language, things like that, even though the thing that I will add to everything Scott said, which I 100% agree with everything that Scott said, what I will add to it is it can be difficult for lay people to separate a judge's nasty personality with a judge's rulings in applying the law. And this judge runs hot. That's his temperament.
Exactly.
But he did not run hot. He did not run hot in front of that jury. He got his jury the heck out of there, and then he read for filth the prosecutor for doing something that the prosecutor should have never tried to do, was stupid to do, wouldn't have gotten away with. And in DC, it wouldn't, I don't know if the mistrial would be granted or not, but the likes of Tanya Chutkan, who just did the ruling saying that the Trump files are not going to be secret, she would have stepped a lawyer back over some bullshiggity like that. She'd like, think this over in one of my jail cells. The bailiff will show you what happens when you screw with my jury. Think it through, counselor. You work for the government. You don't take cheap shots. You don't try to sneak things in front of the jury before you talk to me, especially if you know I'm the kind of judge that runs hot anyway. And we've been fighting back and forth about this. Okay, if you think the door was open through the defendant's testimony, you ask the lead up questions and then you say, Your Honor, may we approach? And then you approach and you say, Your Honor, I believe based on the answers that I've just received from the defendant and based on the prior testimony on direct examination, this now should come into evidence and I would like to be heard. And then the judge is going to say yes, the judge is going to say no. You stick it in your folder for mistrial if you get denied. These prosecutors are getting out lawyered. Hold this up against the trial that we saw against Chauvin, where you saw prosecutors do one of the best jobs of prosecuting a criminal case I have seen. And never in my life have I liked the job that a prosecutor does, in that I'm just in my spirit a defense attorney. But they did a good job and they got a conviction. These dudes right here are screwing up. And yes, the defendant had his contrived breakdown, and I don't know how long they had to practice for Rittenhouse to do that contrived breakdown. Obviously, they still couldn't get him to shed one single tear, but they worked him hard. And when you have a whole bunch of white folks on a jury, seeing who they're going to think is a boy, who they're calling Kyle, and he's doing that, hyperventilating, scrunching his face up, looking at the judge saying, help me, please. Yeah, it might work. So no, I don't like the way this case is going. I texted everybody and said I believed it would be a SH_T show from start to finish, and I stand by my estimation.
Robert Patillo, is this judge doing a proper job? Is he coming across as being more sympathetic to the defense? Should he recuse himself?
No, the judge is doing a fine job. The prosecutor is the one messing up. And I put myself in the position of that defense attorney. I've been a defense attorney my whole career. If we have a pretrial motion and the judge rules on what can and can't come in, and now you just try to sneak something in against the pretrial order that we issued, I'm flipping the table over. I'm literally flipping the table. The one time I got put in handcuffs in court was when a prosecutor tried to do something similar to that. And I blacked the F out in the middle of the Fulton County courtroom. They had to put handcuffs on me to stop me from literally going up on the bench. That's what you have. That's called zealous advocacy for your client. You got to be willing to take it to the mat for your client. So if the prosecutor has already agreed and it's already been ruled on before trial, and you're trying to sneak something in, I'm not trying the rest of the case. We're already at mistrial here. I'm already talking to my client when he gets off the stand and saying, look, regardless of what happens, we're ready for appeal, even if you do get convicted here. So this is one of those incompetent prosecutorial jobs I've ever seen, because even if you play that the cross-examination back that the prosecutor was doing, and that's what I keyed in on, that section, the cross-examination. The defendant does not get to talk during that cross-examination except yes or no. So I am testifying for you. I'm basically reading through the facts that happened and shaping them to the way that I want them read out. And you're saying, did you cross state lines? Yes. Did you bring a loaded firearm with you? Yes. Did you have any legal responsibility to be there? No. Did you walk around brandishing an AR-15 in a crowded protest? Yes. Are you a law enforcement officer? No. Do you have any training which allows you to do crowd control or to patrol businesses? No. Did you aim your firearm at an individual? Yes. Did you shoot that individual? Yes. Did that individual die? Yes. Done with my questions. You don't have all this back and forth.
Well, yes.
You sit down. You don't do all this back and forth.
Yes.
You keep it tight and you get on out.
I agree, except for
Monique, go ahead.
I would want each one of those to be leading, though, Robert. You crossed state lines, you didn't have, etc. I would switch those up a little bit. But then what they also missed is the dude breaks down on the stand. You have contemporaneous video of him with no tears, skipping my Lou Daisy down the street after shooting people. You're not crying there, are you? I mean, they get in trouble for trying to talk about his emotion and his propensity for wanting to shoot folks, but you have the evidence. Why aren't you playing the video of what he looked like after he shot at the first set of people? Where are the tears? Where's the hyperventilation? Are you calling 911? Are you trying to assist? Are you even running away? Are you saying you're sorry? What in his actions looks like what they contrived on the stand today? No, the prosecution is trash right now.
And Monique, on that point, just real quick, what was his statement immediately after the shooting when he talked to his friend? Did he say, "Oh my God, these people were trying to kill me. I had to defend my life. I was in a life or death struggle, and I had to defend myself"? He ain't saying none of that. What did he say? "I just killed 2 people." That is what he said. So the prosecution
and that his life might be over. And that his life might be over.
Exactly.
I'm telling you.
That was without the lawyers and without being in the courtroom and without the publicity and my ass being locked up. That's the contemporaneous emotion you all are talking about. And that's the rebuttal to the tears. But you have to be fearless to do that as a lawyer. You know, everybody gets caught up in the emotion and say, "Oh, but leave that crying witness alone." No, you can really, a matter of factly say, "Okay, you're crying. Let's put the video up, though." Within seconds and minutes of shooting those individuals, you did this, didn't you? Point to the video. You told them you killed 2 people, right? You didn't say you were sorry or anything else.
Water. I will pour the water for you. I will pour the water for you because you need a drink. I will give you your Kleenex. We will wait for however long it takes. I will give you a hug. And then we're going to talk about this video because you're a murderer.
Right. And you don't run from that crying witness. You run to that crying witness, right?
Yes,
you show the jury that I'm good with his tears, but I got something else for you. This is when he wasn't crying. This is when he wasn't crying. You see?
Yeah. Last point for me. When you were leaving the scene after killing 2 people and shooting a 3rd, you approached officers, correct? Yes. And when the officers told you to leave, did you tell them, "There is a group of people trying to murder me, and I had to protect my life. You should go investigate"? Or did you go home and go to sleep?
Or come with me. Come with me to catch them. Because there's a gang after me.
There's an angry mom trying to kill me. I'm going to head on home with my mom. Well, that makes no sense, and the prosecution is not keying in on that. When you have the defendant on the stand, if this rarely happens that you get the defendant testifying his own defense, this is your opportunity to shine. This is your chance to moonwalk all the way around the courtroom. You're supposed to look like James Brown in there. I mean, just tearing him down piece by piece. And the prosecutor, like he just got out of Mickey Mouse Law School. I'm not quite sure.
Well,
go ahead, Scott.
Here's the problem, though. Okay, and you see this. I see this all over the country because prosecutors don't have as much experience cross-examining witnesses the way defense attorneys do, because very seldom are defendants put on the stand. They have to put their defendant on the stand because they need his testimony. They can't get it from anywhere else, and there are a lot of risk associated with that vis-a-vis cross-examination. But the prosecutors aren't really good at cross-examination because they don't do a whole lot of it. And you're seeing this manifestation across, but not one of any level of experience or expertise. The issues we're raising, when you put your cross-examination together, you ought to be thinking and raising those issues months before, because you know this moment is a possibility, and in this case, a probability. And they lost that war. The whole case is about this guy, this defendant, and he took the stand. This is the moment. You have to win that moment. Now, you might still win the case, maybe, but there's a lot of self-defense, powerful self-defense evidence that came in through the defendant. And I got to tell you, many of the other witnesses, we haven't talked about those, Roland, the other witnesses who were the victims, the victim that survived, and some of the other people who observed all this, they either gave conflicting testimony or they gave testimony that really helped both sides. That's the real killer issue, because the jury is going to have to sort through that, and reasonable doubt, if you've got a reason to doubt it, that's reasonable doubt. And the defense and the witnesses for the prosecution have given a lot of reasonable doubt or evidence that's going to make the jury struggle. If the jury struggles, They're not. They're going to come up with a defense verdict and a not guilty verdict. So the prosecution has to rally. They've got some time, but you don't know how many defense witnesses there are going to be. There may not be any more after that. And then you've got to put on a closing argument like you've never done before to convince the jury to choose your story and not the defense story in this case. We'll see.
And Scott, just kind of touching on that previous witness. Well, just this last point, Roland.
No, Robert, go ahead. Final comment. Final comment.
Touching on that previous witness, the individual who was shot and survived, as the prosecutor, you have to protect your witness. You got to object. You got to break that cycle. You can't just let him get up there and get turned into circles. And you make sure you prep him to say, yes, I had my gun as I was approaching Mr. Rittenhouse because he had an AR-15 and was walking around stalking people out trying to defend the rest of the crowd. They just let that entire opportunity go, and now conservative media is running around saying, see, told you it's justified. So the level of incompetence is hard to even understand, and the magnitude of this failure, if he does get acquitted, lies directly on the state.
Yeah, you gotta prep that witness to fight the defense cross.
Scott, which part of final comment don't you get?
Oh, I didn't hear that final. I thought you were gonna go back around.
I said, Robert, final comment on this topic.
God, I miss you, Roland.
You
miss me? I miss you.
Going to a break, folks. Stop talking. Going to a break. Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Once upon a time, there lived a princess with really long hair who was waiting for a prince to come save her. But really, who has time for that?
Let's go. Feeling myself.
She ordered herself a ladder with Prime one-day delivery, and she was out of there.
I want some hood girls looking back at it and a good girl in my tax bracket.
Now, her hairdressing empire is killing it. And the prince, well, who cares? Prime changes everything.
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches! Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Like, wow, Roland was amazing on that.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared. You dig? Voting rights is always a fundamental issue for African Americans. Democracy is at stake. Freedom is at stake. And Joe Madison, longtime radio talk show host in the Broadcasting Radio Hall of Fame, he has launched a hunger strike. Said he is going to be on that hunger strike until Congress passes the For the People Act and the John Lewis Act. He joins us live right now. Joe, glad to have you on the show. So, why'd you decide to do this? When did you decide to do it, and why now?
Well, I decided, I'll be honest with you, I decided when Biden was at his town hall meeting and a young lady asked him about using the filibuster to at least get the John Lewis bill passed or to get the Freedom to Vote Act passed. And he said, well, he waffled and he had to, well, I got to get this infrastructure bill through. And then I started thinking about the first Reconstruction the compromise, and I don't want to get too deep into the history, but you know it, Roland, 1877, the compromise. And once they compromised and Rutherford became president by one vote in Congress, the first thing they went after was the vote, was the franchise. It was the upstart of the Ku Klux Klan, terrorism. And for what, 60, 70, 80 plus years, the impact was devastating. So here we are, 21st century, and I'm going, whoa, wait a minute. None of this gets started. Biden wouldn't be in office if it wasn't for the black vote. This does not make sense. Why are we on the back burner? And I realized one of the problems was that there's no tension. Martin Luther King Jr., Roland, used to talk about creative tension. You remember when the story when he, after the 64 Civil Rights Bill, he said, we got to have a voting rights bill. 65, he said, well, make me do it. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Look, they have three options, and everybody keeps trying to suggest in the Senate, well, these options won't work. The first option would be to blow a hole in the filibuster. I mean, the filibuster has been used to suppress our vote and our civil rights from the very beginning. And it's not a law, it's a rule in the Senate. You blew a hole in it for the Supreme Court Justice, you blow a hole in it when it comes to the budget of the United States. Well, damn it, blow a hole in it for our right to vote. The second thing, the Congressional Black Caucus, Roland, even said to ask Schumer to do what? Reconvene and come back with a vote again. And then there is the Freedom to Vote Act, which, by the way, could help do what the John Lewis bill would do. Now you've got three options, and then all of a sudden we're hearing, well, you can't do that. And I'm telling Biden, I'm telling Congress, look, if you don't do this, then you're going to have a rough go of it in midterm, and you're certainly going to have a rough go of it when it comes to re-election. And then I got to be honest with you. You know, Dick Gregory and I were very close. And I kept, I started channeling Dick. And I said, what would Dick Gregory do? And, I talked to his son, Christian Gregory, and he said, you know what he would do, Joe. And he would go on a hunger strike, and he would draw attention. And that's exactly what it is. I would just say to you, Roland, 50 years from now, I don't want my grandchildren and great-grandchildren to have to deal with voter suppression. There are, 400 pending bills in 49 states to suppress our vote. 400 bills waiting right now in 49 states. So what we would end up with, it would be what we would call the end of the second Reconstruction. And so, people say, well, what's going to happen to you, your health? It's not about what's going to happen to me. It's what's going to happen to our grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And then I'm going to tell you, man, the one person, I don't even know how he can sleep at night and look himself in the mirror, is the congressman from South Carolina. How that brother, and I say that loosely, how that brother,
you mean Senator Tim Scott, the senator?
The senator. Yes, Senator Tim Scott. Man, South Carolina had almost more blacks in the state legislature than any other state, and had sent members to Congress. His forefathers must be rolling over in their grave. So, a hunger strike is a protest. The women used it in the suffrage movement in the United Kingdom. They used it here in the United States. And to me, it's not only a political protest, but it's moral. And that's why those are all the reasons that I decided to do this. And you know me for many years, Roland. I'm very serious about this, and I think we all better be serious because this is not business as usual.
You know, Joe, you're absolutely right. And here's the deal. All the White House kept telling us is, look, the infrastructure bill is important. Guess what? It's now passed. They're dealing with reconciliation. But the reality is this here. They better realize Terry McAuliffe lost by 72,000 votes in Virginia. We know what they're already doing in Texas, in Georgia, in Florida, and those places along those lines. If they don't move on this, they can guarantee they're not going to win the House. They're not going to win the Senate. And then you're talking about folks who are representing a minority of Americans who are the ones who are totally in control.
And let me make this very clear to them. And I always say this is constructive criticism. I go back to the days of Lyndon Johnson after the Civil Rights Bill was passed in 1964. Martin King Jr. showed up and said, we need a 65 Voting Rights Act because millions of black folk, particularly in the South, can't vote. And what did LBJ say to him? Make me do it. And that's exactly what we all have to do about it. Now, everybody may not do a hunger strike, but you know, damn it, we can do something. Everybody can do something. And we've got to have more than moments. Professor Ron Walters once was asked, what was the difference between a moment and a movement? And it was sacrifice. A movement requires sacrifice. And that's what this is all about. And that's what Dick was about. And so, I mean, his spirit just kept talking to me. And I realized that there's got to be tension. There's got to be creative tension with Biden, President Biden, and with the Senate. So look, Congressional Black Caucus said, look, reconvene them and try it again. They've had 5 votes, and they can't protect and stop the suppression of particularly African Americans. And then I said, well, you can blow up the filibuster. I mean, and then that would certainly give you, well, I'll lose this Democrat or I'll lose that Democrat. Well, if those Democrats want to go down in history as being on the side of Dixiecrats in the late 1800s, then that's how history is going to look at them. But I'm not going to sit back here and have my children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, look at me and say, well, what did you do about it? I'm worried, I'm concerned, but I tell you, and I'm going to say this to the Democrats, that they better understand, they can't win a national office without us. They can't win without us. That is a fact. They cannot win without us. So you damn well better do what John Lewis said. And I was thinking about the last words of John Lewis. He said, I urge all of you to answer the highest callings of your heart and stand up for what you truly believe. And that's what I'm doing.
Joe Madison, Sirius XM radio host, Morning Drive. Man, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. And good luck with the hunger strike. And we're going to keep the pressure going on our end as well.
I know you will, Roland. And I just love you and appreciate your support all these years. And, man, thank you for doing. And, they ought to show up on your show and talk and explain themselves. They need to show up on all our shows. I mean, really, show up on all our shows. And you can show up on CNN. That's right. and all these other. Show up on our shows and explain yourself. That's what has to be done. Well, so I love you, Roland.
It's been more than a year. I've been trying to get Speaker Nancy Pelosi on, absolutely. And so we're going to hit the White House every single day, getting them to understand they got to answer to this, and we're not going to be silent until they do.
You know, get rid of that filibuster.
All right, sir.
Go
Thanks
ahead
a
and
lot.
take the vote. Take the vote.
Yes, sir.
Call it a day. Thank you, man.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Love you, Joe. Take care. Tell the wife I said hello. All right, folks. Back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Are the stars out tonight?
Alexa, play our favorite song again.
Okay.
It's time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Like, wow, Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
You dig?
Folks, now let's talk about politics. Earlier we were talking about what Democrats should be doing when it comes to their messaging and driving it to the public. Well, now there's some potential drama. The Insider reported that DNC Chair Jamie Harrison is battling many of his own aides who were placed in the Democratic National Committee by President Joe Biden. In this particular story, it lays out in detail the kind of battle that's been going on when it comes to spending of money, when it comes to messaging, when it comes to all sorts of different things. I want to go to our panel now. This right here speaks volumes because Democrats, of course, are very upset, Reese, about what took place in Virginia. Of course, Harrison, it was big news when he was named DNC chair. And so you always have this battle because whoever controls the White House, they run the party. Trump, when he was there, he controlled and ran the Republican National Committee. Biden is president. He controls the DNC. But the reality is this here. The party apparatus is made up of 50 states. And so if you want to win, everything can't be run out of D.C. Reading this story that lays out any number of things, this is what they say. According to folks who were interviewed off the record, go to my iPad, please. It says that Jamie Harrison is being locked out of staffing and operational decisions. Also, the conflict between Harrison is with Sam Cornell and Mary Beth Cahill, who was Deputy White House Chief of Staff, who used to be CEO of the DNC. And then they say Harrison loyalists say he needs more latitude so the party can get back on track. A pretty damning story. Yes, it's inside baseball, but it also reminds me of the battles that Michael Steele had with the Republican National Committee when he was the chair.
Yeah, I mean, did they put Jamie Harrison in place so that he can win, or did they put him in place so that he can dunk on people on Twitter with these very, clever tweets that he does and dragging people like, hey, I do that, but I'm not going to be the DNC chair. So, it's interesting how they put Black people in these places and they don't really set them up to succeed. We know that the Democratic Party, I say this all the time, still has a white is right problem. And that's why you have the people who are actually making staffing and financial decisions are the white folks still running the ship. Mary Beth Cahill was John Kerry's campaign manager for his presidential campaign. He lost. So why the hell you have her running shit? I don't understand the concept of having losers running stuff, even though Jamie Harrison lost his race. So, you can say the same thing about him. But that was in South Carolina. John Kerry should have won that race against a deeply unpopular president. And so it just goes to show how they set up Black people to fail, but to still be the figurehead so that they can say, look, we tried it with a Black person, didn't work out. Now let's go back to our white, way of doing things. They need to give Jamie Harrison the opportunity to make his own staffing decisions, like Tom Perez did. I'm sure I didn't hear any about this stuff when Tom Perez was in charge, and let him sink or swim. And if you do, then you might actually get somewhere. I think that Jamie Harrison ran a pretty campaign aside from losing. And I think that he probably will bring a really fresh perspective to the party that's deeply needed. They need to get away from this white default mentality in terms of the candidates that they back, this white is right mentality, this chasing after the mythical Trump, Obama Trump voter that's long gone. And they need to really start focusing on the future of the party, which is the multiracial coalition across the country.
DeMario, this is what this story says. Go to my iPad. They've taken this African-American candidate and tokenized him. One of the people familiar with Harrison's frustrations with the DNC told Insider, they put him out as the figurehead of the party, but haven't actually given any ability to shape its future. At a point where we are coming off this election now, and they've gone to try to pivot towards 2022. Instead of empowering him, they've completely disempowered him. Now, in this article, he did give an interview. He disagreed with these various assessments. I know how these stories go. I understand why Jamie has to say that publicly, but stories like this don't get written, frankly, if it's not true.
Roland, this really, I've seen this so many times. It really reminds me of a lesson I learned when I was playing football at the University of Oklahoma. My head coach, John Blake, rest in peace, was the first African-American head coach at the University of Oklahoma. A young assistant coming from the Dallas Cowboys, coming off 2 Super Bowl wins. OU alumni. When they brought him in, and I'm his in-law, he's an in-law of mine, so I know the backstory. When they brought him in, they said, we're going to hire you to be the head coach and let you be the face of this, but we're going to reserve the right to hire your offensive, defensive coordinator. And anybody know anything about football or sports in general, the offense, you need to bring in your own people, because you need to have people that's on your team that feel the same way you do, believe in your philosophy, what defense, offense you want to run. Obviously, that didn't work out. Within 3 years, Coach Blake was fired, and everybody knows the rest of the story with Coach Stoops. My point is, it sounds like that Mr. Harris is in the very same scenario, and the only thing you can do in that situation is resign. Have respect for yourself, integrity for yourself, and say, look, this is not the job I signed up for. I'm not going to be the face of this when things go bad. You can point at me, but I have no power. My grandmother told me a long time ago, don't worry about status. Get the power. Having the power without the status is okay. You can last a lifetime. Having the status without the power is a recipe to be set up and be flushed down the toilet stool as soon as things go wrong.
And on that particular point there, Greg, I'm going back to the insider story. This is what it says. Another friction point came weeks ago when the DNC approved a slate of new party delegates who will have a critical role in all manner of Democratic decision-making. Harrison had submitted a list of names to the White House to fill 75 at-large appointments. But the White House rejected nearly every name he wanted, according to 2 people familiar with the interaction. The point that DeMario makes there is very clear. Status means nothing if you do not have the power to create change. And we also know when it comes to things like the DNC, having power also means controlling the money.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I know you run a tight ship producing. I hope you might spend another second scrolling down. I caught that first 2 lines on Virginia and find it of great interest, considering that
yep,
the Democrats.
Then there's a recent episode that played out when they claimed that, here's what it says right here. When Harrison hit the trail in Virginia, he needed a driver and staffers. He had spent months marshaling party support for what was supposed to be Terry McCullough's victory against the GOP candidate. But when he arrived in the Old Dominion for the final week of the crucial off-year gubernatorial race, he had to borrow a low-level staffer from an outside Democratic group. 3 people familiar with the incident told Insider the DNC declined to book the driver a room at Harrison's hotel, forcing the staffer to drive some 2 hours each way to pick him up.
Wow. Yeah, DeMar, I have to agree with you, brother. I mean, at some point, you have to have some self-respect. But one of the reasons I think that Jamie Harrison was picked was that he was thoroughly vetted. They know Jamie Harrison ain't gonna bite that hand. Jamie Harrison is a faithful party soldier, just like those Democrats in Virginia that didn't stand up when Justin Fairfax was screaming, please, I want this investigation to go on, and asked 2 black women prosecutors in Boston and Durham to pursue this, and effectively cut the throat of somebody and stood with that soft white blackface wearing nationalist Ralph Northern and that Attorney General Herron, and basically gave the state to the white nationalist party 2.5 years ago. Jamie Harrison been vetted. He ain't gonna bite the hand. He's gonna salute the soft white nationalists in the Democratic Party and that machine in the White House, and they're going to go down, and we're all going to suffer. The Democratic Party seems hell-bent on destroying whatever even nominal resistance there is in this country to white nationalism. Now, the simple fact of the matter is that when we look at the history of the Democratic Party, we understand that, wasn't it Ron Brown? Ron Brown was the first DNC chair, black DNC chair, wasn't he? I'm trying to remember. But
he was first.
Right, and if we remember how he got to be the chair, it wasn't because they wanted to do it. Jesse Jackson in 84 and 88 had basically blown up the party, and they were going to have a brokered convention in 88 in Atlanta. I remember because we were in law school. We was going to go down there. We was like, we're just going to tear this motherfucker up. Let's go. And in the week before the convention, when they nominated that stooge Dukakis, Jesse released his delegates to support Dukakis in exchange for getting all those seats. Joe Lewis's son got one, his son got one, but Ron Brown was made the chair of the party, and that was the person who basically was the architect of the victory of Bill Clinton in the next election cycle, even though he only won with a plurality of votes. Why am I bringing it up? That was probably the last successful DNC chair. No shade on Donna Brazile running Al Gore's campaign, who basically lowered the flag and conceded in Florida when they decided not to fight like they should fight. These white boys are not built for war. And the only time that any political party in this country has served the interests of black people is when we have turned our backs on them and waged a war. Now, I'll say that to say this. Jamie Harrison was a safe pick. He knew what it was when he's in there. And he's a little frustrated now because as they fail, as they will likely fail in 2022 and 24, and then we got to go to some kind of damn guerrilla warfare as this thing disintegrates, they're going to stick his cherub face on the failure and say, see, you Negroes did it again. But if they had just let him do everything he wanted to do, he's not going to color outside the lines. Ask Justin Fairfax.
Bottom line here, folks, this is real simple. And that is when we talk about power, we talk about control, we talk about you have to actually put your foot down and take a stand. I'm quite sure that one of the areas where Jamie Harrison is ruffling some feathers, just like Michael Steele did, is who are the vendors. He probably wants more black vendors doing things in there. And so this is also where, and let me say this. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say the Democratic Party, the DNC, has raised over $100 million to date. And y'all can't even give Jamie Harrison a driver and put his person up in a hotel room. That's why I said quit begging us for some damn money, because y'all ain't even spending it right. But it just goes to show the level of contempt that they have for him, that he's not even afforded the basic necessities or benefits that any other Democratic, national convention chair would be afforded. That's actually really disgraceful and insulting.
And it really shows a lot.
I'll tell you right now, point blank. I publicly said to Jamie, fire the entire DNC media team because they damn sure don't know how to create viral videos or how to drive messaging. I mean, so there's a fundamental problem there. And so, again, if you read the story, Jamie has denied a lot of those different things. He gave an on-the-record interview. Yeah, we know he had to do that, but the bottom line is this here. This article was a shot across the bow. And so I dare say, and here's the other deal. Who is Jamie Harrison's greatest benefactor? Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina. So Congressman Clyburn, that's one of those things where, remember, Joe Biden ain't in there without you. That's where you make a phone call and say, Joe, get this shit straight or we're going to have a problem. See, to me, this is not a long conversation. And I know, and again, I said earlier, hand-to-hand combat. See, hand-to-hand combat, y'all, ain't always with your enemy. Sometimes is with your allies.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, this is politics, and politics is
Just
about
saying.
who gets what, when, where, and how. It's about the allocation of resources. It's not about showing up at the Sunday school and saying, we love you. How are you going to slice the pie? And you're right. Representative Clyburn, my frat brother, he said that Joe Biden would remember us, right? That's what he said. Well, he's not remembering Jamie Harrison, and Jamie Harrison is analogous to us as a people. The lack of disrespect that Reese was talking about, they wouldn't even give him a driver because that's how they see us as a dispendable. We don't need to do those things for black people.
Bottom line is this here: if you're gonna swing, swing, and you might sometimes have to hit folk who you like. And so I did reach out to Jim Clyburn. He's traveling today, and so I wanted to have him on talk about the story we're going to discuss next after this break, and that is trying to restore some of the racial inequities for the GI Bill. I did reach out to Jamie Harrison as well. They tried to get him on the show anyway to talk about what's next for the Democrats. So hopefully we'll make that happen as well. Back to that roll my unfiltered video in just one moment.
Oh, that spin class was brutal. Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat. Ooh, yeah, that's nice.
Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on?
Sure, it's wireless.
Pick something we all like. Okay, hold on. What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password?
Buick Envision 2021.
Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable.
That's a really tight spot. Don't worry, I used to hate parallel parking.
Me too.
Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you. All of
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way. Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Like, wow, Roland was amazing on that.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
You dig?
Interesting story that we were sent dealing with Alex Villanueva, who's the LA County Sheriff. Okay, he's accused of supporting deputies who use excessive force and violate the civil rights of residents. A federal lawsuit stemming from a December 2020 case alleges the sheriff has created an atmosphere within the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department where civil rights violations are not only approved but also encouraged. In December, there was an incident involving Larry Jefferson, who was having a mental health episode. Christopher Chambers, his brother-in-law, called for help, but no one responded. A couple of hours later is when everything unfolded. Now, before we show you this video, we got to warn you, it is extremely disturbing. So if you want to look away right now, we'll give you some time to do so. But it's important that we show you this so you understand the context of the conversation that we are about to have. Go ahead and play it. Joining us right now is Faisal Gill, who is the attorney for Larry Jefferson and Christopher Chambers. Mr. Gill, glad to have you on the show. This is quite disturbing, and this is one of the points that Brianna, one of our panelists, made earlier, how law enforcement all across this country does not know how to deal with individuals who are having mental health breakdowns.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on the show and airing the story. But you're absolutely right. Folks, law enforcement are not capable of dealing with mental health breakdown. But I don't even think it's that. I think it's the fact that law enforcement, when they arrive at a situation and when they see a person is, African-American or brown, they act a different way. They immediately go to pulling out their guns. They immediately go to, arresting the person. They immediately go to assaulting the person, and they bring them down. They act as if they are afraid. Like the video that you just showed, there were 5 or 6 officers there, and then just one person. How can they fear for their life or be in danger from one man who was clearly unarmed? He came and ran towards them because his brother-in-law was being assaulted. There was no danger to the police officers.
And you're absolutely right. We have shown many of these videos on this show, and time after time after time, they get on, they immediately go to the black person, detain them, cuff them, toss them to the ground, and then decide to ask questions.
That's exactly right. And the sheriff in this case, the sheriff in Los Angeles County, has expressly created an atmosphere where that's not only okay, but that's celebrated. I mean, recently he went and changed the hats to cowboy hats there for the sheriff's office. So, I mean, he has this mentality that he wants his law enforcement officers to basically buy into. This is literally a cowboy mentality where you go there, arrest a person, throw them on the ground, put your knee in their necks, and then ask questions later on. In this case, what happened was when my client, Mr. Chambers, was down on the floor, on the ground there, they kept their knee on his neck. And the only way they let him up is he said, I don't know why he thought about this, but he said, "Is this how you treat the son of a police officer?" And as soon as he said that, they immediately lifted him up. Now, the truth is that his father is not a police officer, but that's the only thing he could think of to say to actually save himself at that time. And I think that that's just sad. And that's very indicative of what is going on with the police. And your last panel that you were discussing is absolutely true. There is no accountability for police officers. And when there is no accountability for police officers, they can do whatever they want to do.
Christopher Chambers, he joins us right now as well. And Christopher, the particular point your attorney just made there, I mean, you said that, and they literally changed 180 degrees?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
And that had to be... They had to be shocking to you to like, oh wow, what? That's the key to unlock being beaten.
Yeah, I was on the I was laying on the ground, and several people around me was saying, "Okay, pick him up, like pick him up now." And I started saying, "Can you pick me up?" I said, "I'm not resisting." The reason why I'm saying not resisting because they keep saying stop resisting, and I said several times, even with my face, they buried my face in the dirt. So everything was kind of muffled, but I was like, I'm not resisting. I stretched my hands out for him to take my hands and put them like behind my back while I'm laying on my chest because they literally slammed me on the sidewalk, on the pavement, slammed my chest on the pavement. And then they, after I stretched my hands out and they put my hands behind me and he was twisting my arm really hard. One guy, the guy that when I first walked out, that officer, the one that first tackled me, that one, he had his knees in my neck. He was pushing so hard on my neck. Till today, it feels like a flashback. Like, you know what I mean? Every time I think about it, I even mention like I am to you right now. And the other guy has his knee like basically in my back, in my spine, was just like inflicting pain upon me. That's what they was doing. So I said to the guy, I said, hey, I'm not resisting. I said, can you cuff me? But you can't put a cuff on. I started getting scared because what the guy was doing with my hands. And I'm like, I just feel like I couldn't trust him at that moment. So I feel like that guy, I don't want him to try to put my hands on the gun or anything and say that I'm trying to do something, because I really think these guys was going to try to shoot me or something like that. That's all that was going through my mind. So I just think real quick, like, you know what I mean? Tell them that your dad is a police officer, you know what I mean? And they won't hurt you. And I said, you know what I mean? I said, my dad is a police officer. Were you guys trying to kill me? And immediately the guy picked me up. And then one of them said to me that you should have said that a long time ago. Now, of course, when I was on my feet, that's when I said to him, I said, so I have to tell you that for you to, like, you know what I mean? Like, pick me up or, you know, or try to not hurt me.
You know, this is, it is so unfortunate. Now, Attorney Gill, you're alleging that this is practice in the Sheriff's Department. Are there other examples beyond this case? Have you received, other people reached out to you with any information?
Absolutely. I have another case that we're going to file soon against the sheriff's office as well, where there was a black man sitting in his car eating a burrito, and the sheriff's office came there and then basically said, get out of your car. He said, why? And they said, well, get out of your car and then we'll tell you. And then when he didn't, they reached in, grabbed him by his lapel and yanked him out there and arrested him. And for no reason. And he said, what was I doing? And they said, well, there's a suspect in the area who was robbing, who was committing a robbery. And he said, what are you doing? Stopping every black man to see if they committed the robbery? And they just wouldn't listen to him. And they arrested him for resisting arrest and threw him in jail for a day and impounded his car. And this person is not even, if he's like 110 pounds, he's too much. Absolutely no threat to the police officers, but that's how they act. That is the sheriff's attitude when they come across minorities. They don't care. They'll just arrest you. And if you don't do what they say, when they say it, you are going to get arrested and you're going to get hurt.
It is, again, we keep seeing these things all across the country. And to be perfectly honest, without these lawsuits, without the light being shown upon the police departments, we're not going to see the type of changes. And so, Attorney Gill, Mr. Chambers, we appreciate both of you being on the show to share this with us.
Thank you very much for shedding a light on this very important topic. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. I do appreciate it.
Thanks a bunch.
First, back to that roll mark unfiltered video in just one moment.
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way. Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Like, wow, Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
You dig?
Y'all want to hear some crazy? Look, I keep telling y'all the privileged attitude of a lot of these cops. So check this out. There were 4 Seattle police officers who participated in the January 6th insurrection. They now are appealing to the Washington State Supreme Court because they don't want their identities to be released. The attorney representing the officers, okay, said the cops had a First Amendment right to attend a political rally, and releasing their names could subject them to potential violence and harassment. You mean like the violence and harassment we're seeing right now? It took place on January 6th against other cops. The ACLU, they filed a Public Records Act request for the city's Office of Police Accountability investigation into the officers' activities on January 6th. They believe the public has a right to know who the officers are. The case will decide if their anonymity is protected under the state's public records law. The court must also decide whether the officers can continue their court filings anonymously. The case was taken under advisement by the High Court and will be ruled upon later. I mean, this is the crazy thing that happens, that keeps happening, Robert, where police officers think and they operate. There are 2 forms of justice. One for them, one for the rest of us.
You're absolutely correct. And I think that this January 6th investigation, they've done a very good job of getting to the bottom of some of these lower level people who attended the rallies. And these officers kind of are lumped into that lower level group of people. But I think the focus is going to have to be the folks who are on the other side of that barrier and how we're going to bring them to justice. The police officers, those Capitol police officers who we saw on video opening up the gates and letting people in. They want the Congress members who are escorting people around, showing them around the Capitol prior to it happening. The Congress people who are tweeting out the location of the Speaker of the House and the Vice President for the mob to come murder. Those are the people we need to be getting at. Who paid for all these rednecks to get to Washington, D.C.? Them hotels are not cheap. Who paid for all those buses for them? Who paid for the hotel? Who fed them? Who organized this? We've got none of that information. So you're getting a lot of low-level people on trespassing violations, disorderly conduct violations, those sorts of things. This is not getting to the bottom of who started and what was behind this insurrection. And if you think all those people just went home and said, well, I guess it didn't work that time, I guess we'll go back to civil society. No, they're just waiting for their next opportunity to do this again. And now, because that was the dry run, now they understand what they did wrong and what has to happen. So what happens if that exact same mob comes back in 2022 or 2024, where we're inaugurating the next Democratic president? What's going to stop those people from coming back, this time armed, this time with maps, this time with a real plan to execute it, and not simply this riot that took place? Because right now, if you're not getting the leadership, if you're not getting the people who coordinate, if you're not getting the money people behind it, then these officers and others just like them are going to be able to do this again, and there's no recourse from the American people to defend their democracy.
Scott?
Yeah, Roland, this is an illogical lawsuit. Actually, it's a stupid lawsuit. I guess the Supreme Court will take it up at the state level. But here's the deal. You have a right to protest. You have a First Amendment right to gather and to express yourself. Then how come you don't have a right for the public to know your identity since you're on TV attacking the Capitol? You can't have it both ways. Either you're going to have your protection of First Amendment and to express yourself, but you are a public figure doing a public act, and it's on video. In fact, one of the officers, maybe 2 of them, posted videos of themselves at the rally and after the rally. It's on social media as well. And so if you have that First Amendment right to express yourself, well, why do you want to hide your identity then? You don't want to hide your words. You don't want to hide your treasonous conduct. You don't want to hide. You argue that you didn't participate, but I would suggest if you were at the Capitol, you were part and parcel of whatever was going on around there. Why are you afraid of the people knowing who you are? You're afraid of violence? Well, again, here you go. You drove that negative narrative. And by the way, people know already. You're on a video. Your friends and family and community people know who you are. So it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But that white police privilege and a pretty dumb argument, it'll be interesting to see what the Supreme Court does with it. But I don't think they've got a snowball's chance of convincing the Supreme Court that their identity is not relevant, appropriate, or material, or important to the public on the journalistic standards. That just makes no sense whatsoever.
Folks, back to our roll mark unfiltered video in just one moment.
Betty is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon. So now, she's free to become Bear Hug Betty. Settle in, kids. You'll be there a while. Ooh, where you going?
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way. Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
You dig?